you, maybe just some waves or whatever you guys need to do. Michael's going to be up talking about some serving today. Happy Sunday. All right, we hopping?
All right. Good morning, everybody. How are you guys? Blessed. That's always a good answer. That's fantastic. For those guys who don't know me, my name is Michael Grose. I'm lead pastor at the Quarry, and it's a privilege to be able to come together and to worship. For those of you guys who are online, really glad that you're here. We want you to engage, and you don't get a chance to greet, and so just take a moment and let us know you're here. Just in the chat box, just write something like good morning or hey everybody, whatever. It's good. It's good to not be alone, especially in these days, right? So it was January of 1992. I was a little bit younger, and I went on my first ever mission trip. See, I just got on staff at a church called Olivet United Methodist Church in Robbinsdale, Minnesota. It's a church I grew up in and was their coordinator of children and youth ministries. And I had some very generous people sponsor me to go on a missions trip to Tegucigalpa, Honduras, and to spend 10 days with some pretty incredible people serving those who had needs. And so what we did is we were working with a local pastor, and that pastor identified some homes that needed some work. And so by homes, I want to be really clear what I'm talking about, because most of us, when we talk about homes, you're thinking suburbia, right? You're thinking, McMansion, 2,800 square feet, 3,500 square feet, 3-stall garage, 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a little shanty, about maybe 15 by 12, and that was the home, right? And it was divided by sheets that were hung in the house, kind of precariously, and it was made up of whatever they could find in the dump. So pieces of metal, thrown away pieces of plastic, all kind of held together. Some old boards held together with used nails and wire, whatever it took to get some semblance of a home together. And if there was any electricity at all, it was because they pirated it off the main trunk that was going through the neighborhood. And it was one wire that would come into the house, and they would just kind of feed it through everything else. Of course, no running water. And into that situation comes this guy from the suburbs of Minneapolis. I'd never seen anything like that before. I'd never smelled anything like that before. I'd never felt anything like that before. Now, the shanties that we were in, they didn't have cement floors. It was all dirt. And there was a movement because they realized that the dirt floors were the cause of all kinds of infection, from parasites to bacterial to virus. So you track whatever you had on your feet into the home, and it would stay there because you couldn't really sweep a dirt floor, although they did try. And the kids would get on the ground, and they would put whatever they had in their mouths, and it was not a great thing. And so we came in there to put cement floors into these homes. And maybe when you picture that, you're picturing the truck kind of backing up and deet, deet, deet. That's not the way that worked either. Right? So we would gather gravel, we would gather cement, we would sift the sand. We would take a bucket full and pour it into the middle of the floor, and a bucket full of sand, a bucket full of gravel, a bucket full of sand, bucket full of gravel, and then just the right of Portland cement. And the people, the indigenous people, were teaching us how to do this because this is what they do every day. And then you would turn that on the floor, and you kept turning it until that whole mixture was homogeneous. It was even. So you would pile it up into the middle, and then you would make a crater right in the middle of that with your shovels. So now there's a big hole, and you take just the right amount of water, and you pour the water in the middle of the hole. They call this volcano-style mixing. because that's what you did. You created a volcano there. And then you take the dry ingredients on the side and you mix it in. And you slowly do this until everything that was on the inside is now on the outside and everything is wet. And then you mix and you mix and you mix until it's the consistency of like cake batter. And then you spread it out in the right place and you trowel it to a glass-like surface. And then you do that whole thing over again. And you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again until the floor is covered with cement. Now, it took the better part of a day for this group of about 8 of us to do this, 12 by 15 home, and we had the family was working right alongside us. It was really so cool. But I mean, at the end of this, man, I was dead tired. I mean, I was done. I was ready to go home and to rest. So we're taking pictures, and the father of the house, he disappears for a little while. And he's missing out on pictures, because that's what we do in America, right? We take pictures of everything, and we want to capture the moment. And he comes back, with an armful of glass bottles of Coca-Cola for everybody. And he starts handing them out. And he comes to me, and I'm like, no, I can't take that from you, no. And that wasn't because I was on a special diet at all. It was because I knew what he did. See, I mean, for most of us in this room, I mean, getting, a half dozen, 10 bottles of Coke's no big deal. It's like $5, $6, whatever. But I knew for him, that was like a week's wages that he just spent on me. And so I'm like, no, you can't do this. And so the pastor who helped us identify this home, he takes me aside really quickly. And in no uncertain terms, he communicates to me, oh, you will take that Coke, and you will drink that Coke, and you will enjoy that Coke. Because to do anything else would be a huge insult to this man who's trying to bless you in this moment. And so I grabbed that Coke, and I really did enjoy that Coke. But that was what it looked like to be served. I'm there to serve, and I'll tell you what, that bottle of Coke is one of the greatest gifts I have ever received in my life. Because this man sacrificed, not knowing who I was, to bless me, to serve me. Today is the start of week 4 of our 40-day challenge to put the words of Jesus into practice. And I hope you guys stay engaged in this, right? We're calling it the Red Letter Challenge. And it's the Red Letter Challenge because many of our Bibles have the words of Jesus highlighted in red. They're written in red. And so we can identify, those are the words of Jesus. But our goal during this isn't just to read the words of Jesus, it's to actually do the words of Jesus. And my hope is that you stay engaged in the challenge. And you're engaged not out of guilt or not out of obligation, but because we love Jesus. And we're falling more in love with Jesus. And we want to represent Jesus really well as our King and as our Savior. And so we've kind of categorized Jesus' teachings. If we were to summarize it, we would summarize it into 5 main ideas or 5 main principles. And we've identified those, right, as being, forgiving, serving, giving, and going. Right? And we're taking these in a certain order, and that's important. Right? There's a flow, there's a rhythm to this. Because when we are with Christ, when we be with Christ, when we spend time with Him, that's the starting point. That's the foundation. And it's out of that we experience His love, and then we're able to actually love and to love well. And then when we experience His forgiveness and His grace, and I hope that went well for you last week as we talked about forgiveness, being forgiven, receiving forgiveness, and then being someone who forgives readily. It starts with Jesus. Today we're going to talk about what it is to serve like our King, to serve like our King. So if you have your Bibles, and I want to encourage you, bring your Bibles. We're going to get in there. We're going to look at red letters, the words of Jesus. So today we're going to look at John chapter 13. John chapter 13, starting right away in verse 1. So go ahead and find that. And if you would, just join me in praying for our time together as we invite God into this. Heavenly Father, God, I thank you that you're here. Lord, that you're with all of us, whether we're online or we're here in person. And you desire, God, to be with us. Would you meet us, Lord, in this time in a way, God, that resonates with us. Lord, get our attention. We need you to get our attention. Speak deep to us, Lord. I'm excited for what you're going to do in this time. We're grateful that you're here. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right, so John chapter 13, verse 1. And right away, I don't have to give you the context because the passage gives you the context right away. It says this, and I'm reading from the NIV. It says, "It was just before the Passover festival, and Jesus knew that the hour had come." The hour had come. And if you understand what's happening here, before this, the hour was not yet. It wasn't yet time. We had to wait a little bit longer. But now it's here. The hour has come. The hour has come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. And so I want you to kind of get your heads around this. All that Jesus had done in his physical life, it was coming to a horrible and a glorious conclusion. This is the day before his crucifixion, where he would be nailed to a cross. And Jesus knows that the days ahead are filled with all kinds of pain. And so looking at this as people, we can imagine maybe what's going through his mind as Jesus, who's fully human and fully God, experiencing the same emotion that you and I would experience. But listen how this plays out for him. Having loved his own who were in the world, what does he do? What does he do? It says he loved them to the end. He loved them to the end. This is so good. This is so hopeful for me, and hopefully you'll grab hold of this, because if we're people of Jesus, then we love the way that Jesus loved. And it says that he loved them until the end. Friends, this is so important for us, because most of us don't love to the end. We love till it gets hard, right? And when it gets hard, we just kind of discard it, or we walk away, or we say, I'm not going to deal with that, or I'm not going to forgive you, or I'm going to find someone else. I'm going to do it in a different way. But if we love the way Jesus loves, he loves till the end, knowing what he knew. He follows through. So we follow through. In the power of the Spirit, we follow through. Verse 2 says, the evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Now there's something in here that I want us to grab hold of. So Jesus is about to give his life, right? He gives his life. No one takes it from him. He willingly gives his life. It's Thursday night. He's gathered in this room with his closest friends, and he knows that one of these friends, his disciple Judas, is going to betray him. The very next day, he's going to be beaten, tortured, and hung on a cross to die. And according to Luke's gospel, a story, the same story is written in Luke's gospel, just from a different perspective. We read that a fight breaks out amongst the disciples. These guys start acting like 2-year-olds. And they're kind of going after one another. One of them kind of ponders, hey, I wonder who's the greatest among us. And another disciple rises up and says, I'm the greatest among us. Right? And they kind of banter back and forth, and we don't know exactly what happened in there, how it all kind of came together. But if you know the disciples, and when we read the Gospels, we kind of learn their personalities. I mean, I can imagine some of what happened. I can imagine John John, he would stand up and he'd go, hey, you know what? I mean, Jesus literally said, I'm the one he's loved. I mean, he literally said that. So I'm in the mix, right? And then, of course, Peter, this brash man, I mean, he stands up in the middle and he says, well, hold on, you guys. I'm the guy who walked on water. Remember that? He called me out of the boat, and I took steps on the water. I'm in the running, and Thomas right away steps into that, and he says, dude, you just sank. I mean, that's what happened. Who's the greatest? And Jesus is in the middle of all of this. And I can imagine him thinking, I've already told you, the servant is the greatest. The one who serves is the greatest. About himself, Jesus said, I didn't come to be served by others, but to serve and to lay down my life as a ransom. And so he looks around the room at this final meal with his closest friends, and what does he see? He sees proud hearts and dirty feet. Proud hearts and dirty feet. But he doesn't throw down with these guys, right? Listen to what he does. This is verse 4. So Jesus got up from the meal. He took off his outer clothing and wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin, and he began to do the unthinkable. Wash his disciples' feet and drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. This is a crazy scene. I mean, so some perspective. Now, washing someone's feet wasn't all that big of a deal. It was common, right? It happened all the time when someone came into your home. I mean, kind of like when we invite someone into our home today. You know, can I get your coat? Can I get you a glass of water? It was common courtesy. You know, if you were to come into a home in Jesus' time, the first thing they would do, they would greet you with a kiss, right? Which is not necessarily COVID approved today. But then they would say, "Can I wash your feet?" Now it's important to understand who would do the washing at that point, because it would never be the host. That wasn't the job of the person who owned the home. It was always a servant. And in a Jewish home, it would never be a Jewish servant. They were even above this. It would have to be a Gentile or a non-Jew who would do the washing. It was a servant or a slave. And so when the host offered foot washing, essentially they're saying, I'm going to show you how important I am, and that I have someone who will do this for you. Because I would never do this, because let's be honest, I mean, feet are nasty, right? I mean, who would want to wash someone else's feet? Imagine that today. You know, I come into your house and, Michael, how are you? It's good to see you. Can I wash your feet? And no one wants to do that. No one wants to do that. Baby feet? I mean, this is kind of interesting thing. I mean, when we have kids, feet are kind of a cool thing. Right? You love your baby's feet. You smell your baby's feet. You kiss your baby's feet. This little piggy went to market. You have fun with the baby's feet, and then something happens to those feet. Right? It's like, in adulthood, you just keep your socks on, people. Really. We don't go there. But in Jesus' day, it was a little different. And so this is the final meal. The night before he's going to give his life. He looks around the room and he sees proud hearts and dirty feet. And he hears the argument. And then there, right over here is seated his close friend who is about to betray him. And in the midst of that betrayal, he decides to do something radical, to love, to serve in a radical way. And so what does he do? he gets up and he takes off his outer clothing. And then he takes a towel and he wraps it around his waist. He picks up the basin, which would have been common, like this. It wasn't ornate, it wasn't fancy. Picks up water, and he pours water in the basin. And all the while, his disciples are thinking, what is he doing? He can't do this. That's not his role. That's not the job of the leader. That's not the job of the master. And Jesus takes the basin. He kneels down. And he takes each foot and he puts it in the water and he gently takes off the dirt. And then he takes the towel and he dries each foot of each disciple. This is our King. This is what the Creator of the universe did in that moment. I mean, I think it's really hard for us to grasp because we don't have that. Maybe it's similar to like the Queen of England coming to your home, and she's got her gloves on, and she's got her little bucket, and she says, "Hello, may I clean your toilet?" And we'd be like, "You're like the Queen of England. You don't clean toilets." But it's even more profound than that because this is the King of Kings. This is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. This is the righteous one, the very Son of God. And he plays the role of a servant, of a slave. He tips the world upside down to the very end. He looks at his disciples and he sees proud hearts. And he doesn't run away from it. He actually steps into it. Jesus loved them to the end by doing something that everybody else thought was beneath them. Anybody else could have washed the feet. Anybody else could have done that. That could have done that. That was the custom. But Jesus played that role. The greatest is the one who will be the servant. Have you ever been in the presence of a real servant? Someone who is there to bless you without looking to be blessed in return. When we were building our house in Monticello, we were so blessed by people who came alongside us and man, did the hard work of, literally laying the foundation and framing it and putting on siding and insulating and all those different pieces. But there's one guy who really stands above everybody else, and his name is Dave Carlson. Dave Carlson. And Dave has since moved away, and man, I hope you're watching this right now. Dave would show up to my house literally every single day. Michael, when are you going to be there? When are you going to be there? I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. He didn't have a lot of building experience, but he would do whatever I asked him to do. Dave, would you hand me that little piece of siding right there? Dave, would you go run to the garage and get a cord? Dave, would you run up and down that ladder for the 100th time today? And he would say, yeah, absolutely. He had the heart of a servant. One day we were working, and my two boys were on the work site. It was kind of fun to have them there. They weren't really working with us. They were building their own stuff in sand and dirt. And there was this huge pile of dirt out in front of our house. And that was their mountain that they would climb, and then they would jump down into it, and they formed this little pit that they filled with water, and they would jump from about 3 feet up into this puddle, and then they would climb back up and around, and they would jump back in, and pretty soon these guys were just layered in mud, right? They finally jumped back in to the point where they couldn't get themselves out. They were stuck. And so we walked over there, and we picked them up out of this little death trap that they created, and we looked at the situation, and we didn't have running water. And we're like, how are we gonna deal with this? This isn't going to go well. And now, it's the cool of the evening, so they're starting to get cold. But up drives Dave in his little Ford Ranger pickup truck. And he says, I'll take that. I'll do that. And we put the boys in the back of his truck, and they had the time of their lives. We're no seatbelts, no car seats, and drove down the hill to Dave's house, which is about a half mile away. And David literally washed their feet. He saw joy-filled hearts and dirty little bodies, and he said, I'll take that one. I'll do that. This is the heart of Jesus. This is the heart of a servant. And friends, you need to know that you were made to do that same thing. We were made to serve that way. To be with Jesus, to receive forgiveness from Jesus, to forgive others, and to serve as we have been served. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow, maybe from high school psychology, or maybe you studied psychology. He developed something called the hierarchy of needs. This was kind of mid to late 40s. And he basically stated that people are motivated to achieve certain needs in their life. And it's cumulative. It starts kind of low. There's a lower rung that needs to be fulfilled, and then you hit the next rung, and then you hit the next rung, and he kind of created this little pyramid. Right? We have our most basic needs, and these are physical needs. So food, water, warmth, and rest. And then the next is we need safety, we need security. And then once those needs are met, we have relational needs that we have. Belonging, becoming. And then we have esteem needs, feelings of accomplishment. And finally, at the top of his initial pyramid, Maslow said that the highest need is self-actualization, when we become all that we were made to be. So this has been a major tool used in psychology and sociology for many decades. But it wasn't the end, right? Because a few years later, Maslow explored a further dimension of motivation, and he kind of tweaked that pyramid. And he realized that beyond self-actualization is an even greater need, the need of transcendence. And what he meant by that is giving oneself to something beyond one's self, to serve. Now, this shouldn't surprise us, because this is what Jesus has been teaching. But it's always cool when science confirms what the Bible teaches, that we are most fulfilled when we help others reach their highest potential. See, when you serve and help someone else is when you experience the greatest fulfillment in this world. Science has observed that this is true. And this is what Jesus has been teaching us all along, that nothing fulfills you more than serving others. Nothing fulfills you more than serving others, which seems a little counterintuitive to most of us. But when you serve, you enter into a life that is bigger than your own. Jesus taught us to serve. I mean, to the very end, he served. And as believers, the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is inside of us. It lives in us. We were made in the image of God and empowered by the Spirit of God to be the hands and feet of God to this world. The reason we get so much joy out of serving is because that's what you were made to do. Being a servant is part of our identity in Christ. When we serve people, we're not just thanking Jesus for what he has done for us, but we're actually stepping into our God-given identity as servants. We are servants. When we serve, we step into God, into who he created us to be. And so the question I have for you is do you see dirty feet around you? Do you have eyes to see the needs around you? Where do you see them? Where do you see the opportunity to be like Jesus? Maybe you never thought like that before, like this is my role in the world. Maybe you didn't think you had anything to offer. Friends, you have so much. You have so much to offer, so much to give. Don't let the world tell you otherwise. And so let me just give you some basic thoughts on what it might look like for you to step into that role as a servant. And again, these are just baby steps. What would it look like for you to start praying regularly for someone that you love? And I'm not talking about, a fancy, lengthy prayer. I'm just talking about before God mentioning someone's name, and God, would you bless this person today? I'm going to lift this person up. Would you just start there? We serve others when we pray. Or how about this? How about you just call somebody on the telephone? Better yet, it's going to be 65 degrees today. Can I just get a clap or an amen for that? It's going to be beautiful today. Thank you. So it's going to be awesome today. How about you go to someone's home? I mean, physically go to their home, knock on their door, back away, 6 feet, fine, whatever, and just sit down, take your mask off, and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. Serve them. Be with them. What does it look like to serve the way Jesus served? Friends, we have an incredible opportunity in these days to see dirty feet and to get down on our hands and knees and to wash the feet of those that we love, to serve well. And now, just a reminder, this isn't a photo opportunity for you. This isn't an Instagram moment. This isn't something you put up on Facebook and say, hey, look at me, look at serving like Jesus. We don't do that. It's not about you in that moment. It's not about your recognition. It's not about the gift that you give. It's about meeting people's needs in real time and giving all that glory to God. And when you serve that way, something happens within you. You become changed in that moment. And so I want to encourage you, instead of defaulting to I can't, or I won't, or I don't have time, allow the Spirit of God to speak into your heart and to speak the truth that you can do this, that you were made to do that this one's mine. I'll take it, I'll do it, I've got it, I can do that. I was created and gifted by God. I get to show the love of Jesus today because my doing flows out of my being, and I have been with Jesus. Serving is not just what I do. Serving is who I am. It's not just what I do. It's who I am. I'm a foot washer. And this is something that's contagious. It's something that offers hope. God uses our acts of service to change lives. And hear this. The first life that he changes is typically yours. When you serve others, God changes lives, and the first life that he changes is yours. So you get to experience the very thrill of serving someone else, of being used by God. I just was with a friend, and he told me he had a need, and so I brought that before God. I served that person today, and I made a difference in that today. I took time out of my schedule. I really didn't have the time, but I took the time, and there was a need, and I was able to meet that need. Thank you, God, that I was used in that way. there's a real need just around the corner, and I heard about it, and I got to step into that, or in my workplace. I mean, nobody really knows this, but I pray for everybody who surrounds me, or maybe who used to surround me, or I'm a teacher at school, and now it's going to get real dangerous because we're back in school together over these next couple days, and it's like, man, I'm a prayer ninja warrior for God in those moments. That's what I get to do. What does it look like for you to serve our God? To consistently do little things by faith for God's glory. You're a servant. It's not just what I do, it's who I am. I'm a servant. I'm a foot washer. I have the thrill of being used by God. And when you live that way, at the end of the day, you get to look back and you go, God used me there, and God used me there, and God used me there. And that's a good day. The opposite of that is I took and I consumed. And you look back at the end of that day and it's an empty day. And for a lot of us, when we look back at our lives, we go, man, it's been an empty life. But it doesn't have to be that way. Because God is calling you forward. Friends, we have a chance here to engage our world, to actually make a difference in the world, to change the world. You want to be a part of that? Well, then you serve. You serve. You want to change your marriage. Well, then you serve your spouse, right? You want to change friendships. Well, then you serve your friends. You want to change your community. You serve your community. You want to change your relationship with God. You want to see your life change. Well, then you serve others. And God changes lives. And the first life that He changes is typically yours. You want to see your family change? You want to see your kids change? Serve your kids. Serve your kids. And you do it like this. You're with Jesus. You be with Jesus. And He just wrecks your life. He just changes you. You be with Jesus. You receive forgiveness from Jesus. You start forgiving others. You're served by Christ. And out of that, then you begin to serve. And watch how Jesus changes lives through you. The day before Jesus died, He was in a room with His closest followers, and He looked around that room, and He saw proud hearts and dirty feet. He didn't walk away from it. He walked into it. When you have eyes to see, and ears to hear, and a heart to care, you'll see the needs the way that Jesus sees them. And you'll step in. And the Spirit of God will speak to you and say, you can do that. You can do that. You were made for that. Friends, that's what it looks like to serve like Jesus. Let's pray together.